Hey everyone, welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina. I'm a leadership consultant specializing in mindset, identity, self-awareness, and communication. And so we've been talking about being in your main character energy, right? Are you the main character in your story? Probably not if you're living a life you don't love, right? So if you're living a life that you wish you weren't, or you feel kind of like lukewarm about, or you were happy about 20 years ago and you're not happy about now, odds are you're not in main character energy. Odds are you're living for other people's expectations and not your own, right? And so what you want to do to take your power back and get into a space where it's like, this is my story and I'm calling the shots, is you have to come out of yourself as character and come into yourself as author, right? You have to have intention and analysis behind the things that you do. You can't just keep doing unconscious things that you've done your whole life, right? So if you don't know why you're doing the things you're doing, you're living unconsciously, right? So we've been talking a lot about um, analyzing scenes of your life that have possibly made you show up in different ways, right? Trying to figure out what's actually you versus what's some kind of coping mechanism that you have adopted as your personality, right? Trying to figure out what you actually want versus you listening to society, your family, your friends, your teachers, and guiding you into something that isn't actually aligned with who you are, right? So that kind of behavior puts us inside character energy. When we are so upset in our life, we don't love it, we stop kind of paying attention, we check out, we get into non-player character energy. None of that is going to put you on your path and purpose. It will take you farther from it versus main character energy, which is very much aligned with the authentic you, right? So we've talked about analyzing the scenes. I took you through that, about analyzing your values and shifting them. I want to talk about what's called balanced processing. Okay, it's this idea of being able to make judgment calls in a balanced, non-reactive, non-judgmental way. Okay, now this is very important to make you proactive and not reactive. Main character energy holds on to its power. You're not going to rattle me, right? You do whatever you want. It's not going to steal my peace. Now, there is a certain level of detachment, and this is an advanced thing. So if you can't right now, just put it on the shelf and come back to it later, okay? Because this is actually like advanced study here and not easy. Okay, it's not easy because we tend in self as character to take everything very personally. Self as character takes everything personally. Every trial, every tribulation, every person doesn't like them, every conflict, they take it personally. Self as author, self as somebody who's intentional, right? Knows that every conflict is intentional to help the character grow. You can't have a fun, interesting book, movie, anything that doesn't have conflict in it, that doesn't have adversity. It's not fun. Now, some authors are harder on their characters than others, right? There's this guy I follow on TikTok. His name's Kyle Prue. He's hysterical and he's an author. And he's like, yeah, other authors accuse me of being sadistic to my characters. And I guess I kind of am, right? Some authors, and I'm sure maybe you've read or you've seen movies where it's just like conflict after conflict after conflict. They don't have any time to like catch their breath, right? And maybe you feel like that in your life. Like it's just been trial after trial after trial after trial after trial, conflict, tribulation, issue, right? If you've never detached, if you've never stepped back and stopped being like, God, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my life? Why is this happening, right? If you haven't gotten yourself out of victim mode, because that's what that is, you definitely haven't come into balanced processing. So balanced processing, what that is the ability to not take things personally and make judgment calls, keeping yourself out of a thing. Now, this is it's a hard thing to do. Okay, it can be a very tricky thing to do because we do tend to take things personally. So the first step in this is if you want to come into main character energy. You need to realize, you need to learn, you need to analyze, self-analysis here. Where are you getting the most triggered? What is triggering you? Now, this is a whole lesson, it's a whole nother day. Triggers, how to combat them, what they mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've heard the word trigger, all that means is it's some kind of superficial thing, seemingly superficial thing that actually is triggering something very deeply rooted in your subconscious. And 95% of what we do is in our subconscious, right? So anything, honestly, can be a trigger. And you want to pay attention to your triggers. The more you are aware of those things that make you feel some type of way, for good or for bad, the more you can work through that, right? And so you can be more balanced. You're not going to take anything personally because you're like, oh, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with me, right? Let me show you what that looks like in real time, okay? So the other day, no, let me give you a better one than that. Let me think of my own triggers, of which, there used to be many. Now I don't. So if something doesn't happen as quickly as I'd like it to, right? Impatience for me is a trigger. Like I'm aware that that emotion of impatience or frustration is surface level emotion to something deeper. So if there's anything that triggers my impatience or frustration, let's say I'm expecting somebody to call me and they don't call, okay? I'm frustrated. I don't like when people don't do what they say they're going to do, And so there's a million reasons why that person might not have called, right? This had literally happened last night. I was expecting someone to call me so that I could make plans. And they didn't. So I'm very annoyed, very frustrated. The trigger is they didn't call, okay? The emotion surface level that is triggered there is frustration. Now, I know myself well enough to know that that frustration is actually a really surface level emotion for a deeper trigger, which is that I'm feeling out of control. 9 times out of 10, if I'm frustrated, it's because I feel out of control. And sure enough, that's exactly what it is. I don't have control over my plans now because I've been waiting on you and you didn't show up and do your part. So now I'm, feeling some type of way. And I was like, I sent off a few quick messages. I can't lie. Sent off a few quick messages. And then it took me I don't know, maybe 5 minutes to be like, all right, wait. Just backtrack. I deleted them. I normally don't do that, but I was like, all right, I overreacted. It's not that big of a freaking deal. I'm just going to go home. Not a problem. Right. It can be that simple, it can be much, much, much less simple than that. It can be much more complicated than that. It can be much deeper than that. I'm trying to give you a relatable example because 9 times out of 10, the things that trigger us are everyday living things. That was an everyday living thing. Somebody not showing up the way I wanted them to show up, the way they said they'd show up, right? And so, what I have learned is being non-reactive is an intentional, continual practice. And this is why I said maybe just put this on the shelf because there's a lot of other self stuff to do. This is more advanced stuff. Okay, it is. It just is. But if you really want to be in main character energy, you're not reacting to everything that happens to you. You just aren't. You're like, okay, this is happening for a reason. Let's work through it. Let's see what we can learn from it. Let's move on. Not a big deal. I had an interview the other day for an institute, a school, to go into a degree program there. And they were like, the interviewer was like, well, what if you don't get accepted to this program? And I was like, well, first off, I don't even conceive a reality where that happens, right? I'm so dramatic, right? I was like, I don't even see, I think I'm supposed to be here. So I think I'm going to get it. I'm telling the training director this, right? So that's just how arrogant I am. But I just, sometimes when and I'm just when something's aligned, I tend to know it. But I was like, but let's for funsies sake say you don't want me, right? Because that's what a rejection is, what he's asking, right? I have at this point reframed rejection to the point where it's like, if it's not this program, it's something better. If it's not this guy, it's somebody better. Like everything's always working out for me. So it doesn't matter what it is. So I don't care, you know? And that reframe, that rejection reframe, rejection is protection. If it's not this, it's something better, has served me greatly. I'll tell you that, one. And two, it makes it very easy to detach. I'm not upset if you don't want me. Great. It means someone else is supposed to be, it's clearing the way for something else. That's the importance of detachment. When you get so fixated on anything, how your kids should act or eat, how your husband should treat you or not, how your boss should treat you, how your day should go, how your life should go. Like when you get too fixated on that, you lose your power. You really do. And it's because you have an expectation around the thing, and then it doesn't happen the way you want it to, and you get disappointed and upset and hurt. And if you go back to what I'm talking about over the last little bit, like now you're going to show up differently because you're internalizing trauma, something that you perceive as traumatic. So for me now, I'm like, now I will tell you, having a felony and a sex offense made it very easy for me to reframe this because I know 90% of the things I want to do are going to reject me, not because of me, but because of this background. So it got very easy to just be like, okay, this is probably going to be a rejection unless it's an acceptance. Like, okay. And so you just make peace with, all right, well, if this is not the place, it's not the place and something better is for me. And it has served me literally every time. Whereas I live a better life now than I ever have. And there's no reason for that, except for the fact that my perspective on it is everything's working out for me and it's fine. Because I take very few things personally now. You don't like me? Cool. That's your problem, not mine. Okay. I'm not your cup of tea? Great. That's your problem, not mine. That doesn't mean you don't take like critical feedback, but you only take feedback from the people who like have been where you've been, who are going where you're going, who you respect as a like somebody who knows. Like empty cans make loud noises. You know what I mean? People who haven't done shit usually have a lot to say. And so like anytime, it's just very easy for me to reframe where I'm like, and I say all of this to remind you that it's very easy to detach when you don't take things personally, which puts you in main character energy. It allows the things that are for you to come to you. And you're not trying to hold on and do what you think's supposed to happen. You take the aligned action that you feel called to take. And again, this is advanced study here, guys. So if this is too much too soon, just put it on the shelf and come back to it. Like I know this is advanced study. Okay, I know this takes work. It is not easy to come out of self as character and come into self as author. This is why I keep saying hire a coach. Technically, everybody can do the kind of self-work I have done. But it's easier and faster when someone's guiding you through it. At one point, I think I had like 10 coaches. Like you don't get from where I was to where I am in 5 years without a lot of people helping you. I didn't do it by myself, you know? And so you can do it by yourself if you are really intentional, but it's not an easy thing. Self-analysis is a very hard thing to do. It really is. Non-attached, so detached, non-judgmental, fair self-analysis is a very hard thing to do, which is why all that other stuff has to come first, because you can't do that kind of self-analysis until you've got this skill set I'm talking about today down. Now this, I could easily teach someone for like 3, 6, 9 months. Okay, so this is, I'm overviewing a very intricate concept here. Detachment while still working to attain a thing is a very nuanced study, a very delicate balance. Main character energy will have you able to do that. Most people don't get into main character energy because they want to take everything personal. Side character. side character, side character, right? So I'm always trying to put you in the seat of power. I'm always trying to put you back in your self, trying to get your power and control back. Non-attachment, non-judgment is a way to do that. Balanced processing. I can process all the things in a detached, non-judgmental, balanced way. Okay. And I'm just going to let you guys know yesterday's study on values and today's study on balanced processing are part of being an authentic leader. Okay. Which I think is the best type of leader and person you can be. But it's advanced study. Okay. So, and that, yes, I wrote my dissertation on that. Yes, I am relatively an expert on authentic leadership theory. I coach it. I practice it in my own life. I have studied it. So I'm pulling from that content right now, and it is advanced. So if you can't hang on it, then that's okay. Don't worry about it. If you're like, ooh, this sounds like something I really like because I get triggered all the time, you need to hire somebody. Doesn't need to be me, but it needs to be someone. If you want to grow, if you don't want to grow, hey, you do you. I've done it both ways, okay? And I will tell you, the growth way is going to lead you to more of what you want. Done it both ways. Okay, so if you want a life you actually enjoy, that is in your aligned path and aligned purpose, and is serving you greatly, and is your skill sets being put on display, and you getting paid and recognized for the things that you actually like to do, you need to be a different person. Your true self, the true person that you are, and not the pretend person, side character you've been probably the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I know that's a hard thing. Trust me, I learned it the hard way. Trying to make it so that it's not so hard for anybody else to learn, right? So with that being said, and I'm sorry, my energy's a little off, guys. I have strep throat. So I don't know if you can tell, but my lymph nodes are so swollen. I have a doctor's appointment in an hour. So swollen, so much pain. Wanted to come to you guys anyway, because I show up no matter what, right? Not necessarily, but I tried to. So with that all being said, if you like what we're talking about here, main character energy, comment, subscribe, grow the channel. If you want to inquire about coaching, comment below, find me on any social and DM me. And I will keep bringing you a few more things on main character energy, and then we'll do a new series. But I hope this is a very helpful, practical, attainable process for you, because everybody should be the main character in their own life. And I will see you guys on the next video.